Welcome, guardians of glittering secrets, welcome back to the velvet curtain world of whispers of Turkish stars, where the spotlight always finds the tremble of a heartbeat and the truth steps out wearing the scent of midnight. Tonight, we enter a chapter no fan ever wished to read, a chapter that broke open when the city slept, when the streets held their breath and even the stars seemed to dim for a moment. Make yourselves comfortable, lean into the hush, and prepare to travel deep into a love story so intense it feels carved into time itself, a story poised between collapse and rebirth, between finality and the courage to begin again. Before we set sail into this storm, do the one thing that knits our community together. Subscribe to the channel, tap the bell so you're the first to catch the twist of fate, and, if our late night dives into the shadows and the whispers deserve it, consider joining us. Your support is the heartbeat that lets us cross the lines others dare not cross, to bring clarity to the places where rumor and reality blur. Now breathe in, because we are stepping into the center of the gale stirred by Alina and Navruz. Everything began last night, in the trembling hour when dream and dawn overlap like reflections in a dark window. The feeds were gentle, harmless, moving at the pace of a quiet lullaby. Then it happened, a flash of notification, a tiny vibration, and suddenly millions of phones quivered as if called by fate. Alina, our luminous star with a gaze that could set a horizon ablaze and a heart that refuses to lie, shared a photograph that, at first glance, might have seemed like an elegant artistic study, the kind of monochrome image that says everything and nothing at once. But for those who speak the secret language of disappointed hope, for those who have followed every nuance of this romance, the image was a lighthouse and a warning bell. The photograph was in black and white, each shade as sharp as a remembered promise. Alina looked away from the lens, her eyes anchored on some distant shore only she could see. Her face held two truths at once, a softness like the echo of an embrace and a strength that could slice through fog. Yet the image alone wasn't what set the ground trembling beneath the fandom. It was the caption beneath it, the kind of line that doesn't shout yet somehow shakes everything loose. She wrote of waiting that hollows the soul, of a silence that thunders louder than any apology, of her decision to stop searching the horizon for a dawn that refuses to arrive. In a handful of words, she confessed she would no longer waste her heart's light on signals that refused to show themselves. The internet cracked like ice underfoot. Instantly, followers began tagging Alp, a wave of pings and pleas and theories rising with tidal force. Many insisted the message was directed at him, an arrow loosed straight into a guarded heart. Were we witnessing a break so deep it couldn't be mended? Or was this the tremor that comes just before a new, steadier ground is found? In a single post, the fragile balance many had sensed for weeks finally tipped. The community split into two loud, unyielding currents, two choirs singing opposite hymns. On one side, the defenders of Alina spoke with the conviction of those who have watched her give and give, who believe patience has limits even in great love. To them, her honesty wasn't an affront, it was survival. They said she had poured herself into this story, thread by thread, and that if the quiet from the other end became a wall, she had every right to call out into the world. One fan, voice trembling with empathy, wrote that her eyes looked like they had been carrying 1,000 solitary battles, that no one should have to tilt at the wind alone. On the other side stood Alp's faithful supporters, guardians of his measured silence. To them, his quiet wasn't a vacancy but a code of honor, a way of sheltering something fragile from the storm of public noise. They argued that asking for time isn't dodging a promise but protecting a foundation being built beyond intrusive eyes. One insisted he doesn't speak unless he means it, that if he steps back into the shadows, it's to shape something real, something that requires more than a caption to explain. And here, dear family of whispers of Turkish stars, I turn to you. You know the pulse of this love almost as well as they do. Which truth feels truer to your heart? Does love need to be declared with a voice that trembles the ground, as Alina's words suggest? Or must it be guarded like a flame against the wind, as Alp's restraint implies? Tell us in the comments, we want to hear your heartbeat in this chorus, your hopes for what should come next. And if our candlelit watch over these stories carries meaning for you, remember to subscribe and consider joining. Your support keeps us here, night after night, listening for the smallest shift in tone. Whispers say Alp responded, not with a shout but with the calm of a tide that does not change course for a storm. According to those close to the situation, his message to Alina was simple and grave: what they have built does not fit into square frames on a screen, and the clamor outside must never drown out the music only they can hear. There is no official confirmation, yet those words spread like sparks carried by a dry wind, igniting debates in every corner of the internet. And while no one can swear to the exact phrasing, the emotion it stirs is undeniable. In the rush of adrenaline, many missed a detail our night owl investigators caught. 2 evenings before Alina's post, the pair was seen at one of the city's most whispered about restaurants, a place where the waiters move like shadows and the windows turn the skyline into a painting. Witnesses described them arriving separately, a few minutes apart, their moods folded into themselves. They sat near each other, but every movement seemed carefully measured, as if each gesture had consequences. Even the candlelight felt cautious. Was that dinner the overture to this digital earthquake? Did a sentence fall like a stone between courses? Did an answer arrive that no one was ready to accept? Speculation pinwheels. Some say Alina asked for a step forward, a shape more formal and visible, and that Alp, deliberate as always, hesitated. Others whisper about misunderstandings born from shadows and whispers, about innocuous interactions turned into monsters by jealousy's magnifying glass. What we know is this: Alina's words did not feel impulsive. They sounded distilled, chosen, heavy with care. Friends close to her allegedly heard her say she refuses to be a doubt's echo, she wants to be certainty's light. That sentiment has its own gravity, and it pulls the conversation toward clarity. Meanwhile, the fandom waits like an audience suspended on the edge of an unfinished note. Will there be a reconciliation so luminous it will make even cynics tear up? Will Alina erase the post and, in the same breath, show a path back to softness? Or will Alp release an official statement that redefines the borders of their story forever? The questions sit on our tongues, and we refresh and refresh, searching for the next footprint in the sand. Picture it. Alina at home, perhaps on the floor beside a window where the city's dim glow inches across the room, holding her phone and wondering whether a black story bubble is a response or a retreat. Alp across town, quiet as an anchor at the bottom of a restless harbor, feeling the weight of a million eyes measuring the space between each of his breaths. It is cruel, this scrutiny, even for two people who have learned to live within it. The love between them, fierce and visceral, turns even their disagreements into poetry for those of us watching from behind the glass. This isn't a disposable rumor. This is a collision of two hearts beating on rhythms that, in this moment, don't quite align. The forums are lit like a field of lanterns, each comment a tiny flame, each theory a pebble tossed into a dark lake. We know you see details others miss. Maybe you noticed the necklace Alina chose, the song that slipped into a story earlier in the week, the timing of Alp's last interview, the way he tightened his jaw when he said the word always. All of it becomes a map we try to read, a set of signs we hope will lead us back to a sunny morning where they stand side by side without shadows at their feet. And isn't it terrifying and exquisite how a single photo and a string of words can splinter the night like this? We at Whispers of Turkish Stars will remain right here, steady in the glow, watching, listening, ready for the first tremor of peace or the crack of a final goodbye. Before you go to weigh your own reflections, tell us one more thing: which other names should we bring beneath our lens? Which other pairs smile for the cameras while hiding thunder behind their eyes? Share your suspicions, let your voice join the chorus. And thank you, as always, for keeping vigil with us in the soft hours. Leave a like if your heart felt this, subscribe to keep the thread unbroken, and consider joining our circle so that this work can continue, night after sleepless night. As for Alina and Alp, maybe the truth is quieter than we think. Perhaps there is a conversation underway, one that doesn't belong to us, a conversation of two chairs pulled close and hands not quite touching. Perhaps the next step is not a public statement but a private promise, the kind that doesn't need a camera to exist. Or perhaps the bravest thing love can do is admit it is lost and choose a new direction. We don't know yet. What we do know is that love of this magnitude doesn't vanish, it transforms. It takes the shape it needs to survive. When the lights fall and the feeds go still, remember this. Stories like theirs are not sustained by noise but by truth spoken softly when the world is not listening. If the melody survives the echo, they will find each other again on the same note. If it doesn't, they will still carry the music in their bones. Tonight, we leave the stage with questions glittering like embers. Until the next heartbeat of news, keep your eyes on the horizon, keep your hope balanced with patience, and keep faith in the possibility that even the sharpest midnight can yield to morning. This is Whispers of Turkish Stars, signing off with the wish that the next time we gather, it will be to tell you about a hand found and held, not a hand released into the dark.